Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you are joining. Welcome to our 1E webinar today. We're going to be talking about 2024. It was a big year for us. A lot happened, a lot of highlights, which we will cover, and we'll talk about the year in review. To help me with this today, I have two of my colleagues that I'll introduce. But first, I want to introduce myself. So my name is Kat Catini. I am the Director of Product Marketing here at 1E. Worked on the product management team for some time, so familiar with the products. And again, here today to talk to you about 2024 in review and all of the cool things that 1E has done in this year. With me, I also have Doug Hines. So he's our Solution Consulting Team Lead. He's going to be taking us through a demonstration today. One of the highlights, he's going to show us what that looks like. So thanks, Doug, for being here today. And we also have Simon Dion, our sales engineer. He's here from Exoprise, one of our newer members of our team. And he's also going to be taking us on a demonstration of another highlight that we have. So thanks, Simon, for being here today as well. Great. So that being said, let's dive right into it. No need to wait. And first, let's talk about the first half of the year and all of the cool things that happened. And again, some of the highlights that we had here at 1E. Firstly, in January, and I won't read through the whole slide, I'll just go through some of the highlights. But firstly, in January, kicked the year off strong and came out with our 1E Intelligence product. So Doug is going to cover this in a lot more detail, but did want to mention that as early as last January, we were in early access for our 1E Intelligence product. And that's now gone GA just this month. So we've been developing and refining and having customers test for a year, but came out strong with that. In May 2024, a lot happened, a lot of product updates and releases. Also excitingly, we were able to secure a contract with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, the VA. Great contract there, large contract that we had there, honored that they're working with us now, as well as some product updates as well. And you'll see these product updates really dispersed through the entire year. We release on a monthly cadence to our SaaS customers. So that's why you see a lot of product updates there. But in May, notably, we had our software reclaim solution come out. We also improve our products quite frequently. So we had our device refresh solution be improved, as well as our inventory insights be improved as well. In July, we also had some more product updates. Again, releasing monthly, we're always going to be putting out new products, new enhancements. That's part of our SaaS platform. So in July, we had an addition to our device inventory, and our device details had an enhancement. Notably, and the last thing on this slide here also is in August 2024, a big highlight, at least for us here internally, 1E was recognized as a Gartner leader in the inaugural Gartner Magic Quadrant for Digital Employee Experience Management Tools. So really exciting. We work with Gartner very closely and really honored to be on that leader, a part of the Magic Quadrant there, especially in the first one. So wanted to mention that thanks to Gartner for that leader mention, and I'll be talking about it in a little bit more detail. To talk about very quickly the second half of the year, I suppose a little bit less than a half, we had a lot more going on in the end of the year than the front half of the year. I know we've been quite busy here internally, and you can see how much we've done even just since September. In September, again, we had more product updates, but what I really want to draw your attention to was the big month of October 2024 that we had that started with our Exoprise acquisition and why Simon and his team is with us right now. So a great acquisition there. We entered a new market of DEM for Exoprise. There's synthetic monitoring and real user monitoring that we have. Really excited to help with that part of the product. And Simon will take us through a deeper demonstration to go through that and show us really what that's all about. We didn't stop there. It was very busy in October. We also had the Goliath partnership, which will help us with our VDX solution, and expand that there, as well as a partnership with B2M Solutions, which is going to help with our mobile management. So not only can we track devices and laptops, we're working on those mobile devices as well to really expand our use cases and our reach of what we can track for our users. So more to come on both of those. All of this, especially in October 2024, we have press releases and blogs if you want to read more, but a big month there, especially with expanding our platform outside of just 1E in October. I'll quickly run through November and December, but in November, definitely want to note that we had our first customer conference. So really exciting. Went down to Austin, Texas for our DEX Connect Summit. Had customers, partners, 1E employees. I was happy to be there at the DEX Connect Summit and also had that first conference. Plan to keep those going. Plan to really boost those, and it was a really fun time as well as really informative. I know, Doug, you were there and enjoyed it as well. And so can't wait to keep doing some more of those. We also had some solutions platform integration work, so you can now link from our 1E solutions to the platform automatically there, as well as a data export. So I know this is just one line among many, but I know how important this is from my time in product management. You can now export experience analytics. I know that was asked for quite some time, so we can now do that as of the November release. And then lastly, we have December. We have this month. So again, we release monthly, so more product updates. Intelligent Insights was launched GA. We'll have Doug again show that, same as the 1E Intelligence there. We had some updates to inventory insights as well as patch insights, which is one of our applications that we have. So a lot going on, a lot to cover throughout the year. And again, this is not every single thing we released. For all product updates, definitely check out those monthly blogs that we put out as well as the release notes, but just wanted to highlight some major themes and some updates that we had there. We're also excited there's going to be much more in 2025. I already see the releases that are going to be going out and some future plans, and we do have a large piece of news here at the end for what's going to happen in 2025. But before we get into that and talk about the future, let's still recap 2024 here. And firstly, let's deep dive into 1E Intelligence. Again, we went EA in January, now GA this December. So we went through that journey of perfecting the product throughout the year, right? And making sure it was tested and worked on with our customers. And we have Intelligent Sentiment and Intelligent Insights. For more information about this, I'm actually going to pass it over to Doug to send us through a demonstration, show us what it looks like. So Doug, if you don't mind, I'll pass over to you and you can let us know what that looks like.
Excellent. Thanks, Kat. Happy to see everybody. It's been a long and wonderful year. And as Kat has already kind of mentioned, looking forward to even more 1E-ness next year. But let's talk about one of the biggest things that we were able to bring about to market this year. And that is 1E finding a way to actually take AI and marry it into a DEX tool. What you're seeing in front of you is the long working of our product and engineering team, 1E Intelligent Insights. The idea around Intelligent Insights is being able to look through all of the different events, metrics, and telemetry that our tool is collecting and really draw your eyes to the things that are burning and or catching fire in your IT environment. The idea is when you come in the morning or you begin your week, you want to be able to decide where you're going to spend your sweat equity, when you're going to align your people to working and researching and mitigating issues. This should be that main tool that you land on. Obviously, breaking them down into high, medium, low. And then once you have an issue that you want to start researching and providing solutions to, coming in and giving more in-depth information to said issue. What is the definition of the problem? What are some recommendations on those next steps? What are the causes, the underlying issues that we've seen from the market using our model to identify this information, the data that we've gathered? What is the potential impact to the user? The whole idea of this is telling whoever the administrator is, this is a problem. Here's some of the pain that your end users are feeling. Not only that, but who are those end users from management groups down to the individual devices. And we don't stop there. At 1E, we really focus on fixing the problem and not just staring at it. So we know there's an issue. We also want to provide direct real-time capabilities of querying or providing remediations against these issues right inside of our insights. So as you're tracking this, almost like a ticket, as you can see the open investigation in progress, we can follow these insights from detection all the way to completion. You can see the history of anything that may have been run against it, and you can see the machines that are initially impacted and then over time are getting remediated. This is all very digital. So when I say digital, I mean this is all based off of informatics that we've collected from the endpoint. Now, to be a DEX tool, you have that, but you also have to have the analog. You have to have the other side. To be a true DEX tool, you have to gather end user sentiment. Now, the other tool in our 1E Intelligence suite is exactly that, intelligent sentiment. The way this works is as we're monitoring the tool, our backend intelligence system is looking for deviations, kind of standard deviation of a standard deviation. And where you identify those, it gets labeled as an anomaly. Something is different. Something is so different today than it was yesterday on this end user device that our system actually reaches out to them using the sentiment capabilities from 1E that you know and love, and ask them a very targeted question about the issue that the system has identified, allowing them to obviously provide the scale of feedback along with free body text input. So that's where we can definitely identify the common problems, asking end users, are you truly feeling pain on that? And aligning that digital information with the analog feedback from the end user to say, yes, IT, we definitely see a problem here. The end user has confirmed it, and we need to start looking into it. Now, what that could mean any number of things. Obviously, we're as mature as our model can be, but the benefit of having significant words allows the end users to tell us that there's pain with an issue with a certain topic, even if we haven't necessarily nailed it with the AI model. However, our AI model is getting mature each and every time this is used. So while we are able to align the feedback from the end users, if you need to, you can have the end users do the reverse, align the problem back to the anomaly. That is that analog piece to the digital piece, the sentiment and the insights, the ability for the end users to verify that there are problems along with the system to use all that rich collected data to put it at the forefront of the admins who are trying to increase the positive DEX scores and the positive feelings from the end users day in and day out. This is the forefront of AI here at 1E, and it's only going to grow from here. Kat, this is one of the things that I was very excited to bring to market this year. Obviously, I've been espousing about it all year, and I can't wait to see where our product engineering team takes it from here. I'm going to hand it back to you, but if there are any questions, obviously our audience is free to reach out to me. Thanks, Kat.
Great. Thank you, Doug, for that demo. That was helpful. Let me pop back into our highlights. So talked about 1E Intelligence. That's exciting there. And the next piece that we'll talk about is the Gartner Magic Quadrant, right? So we saw a long list of a lot of highlights. We're going to focus in on three. 1E Intelligence was the first one. Second one I want to talk about is the Gartner Magic Quadrant. So again, mentioned we were a leader in this first Magic Quadrant that had come out in this category, which is the Digital Employee Experience DEX Management Tools category. You can see 1E there in the leader part of that quadrant. We have the top right, really where we wanted to be. So really excited about that. For more information, you can take a look and download the entire Magic Quadrant, see 1E's strengths, look at other providers in the same space as well. But definitely wanted to mention that we were in that leader quadrant for this year. I'm pretty excited about that, and definitely a highlight we wanted to note. Thirdly, I'll talk about how 1E acquired Exoprise. So again, back in October 2024, was able to meet Simon and his team coming right over from Exoprise, right in Boston, actually, which is where I'm located, which was cool. And really, this was all about the synthetic monitoring and real user monitoring capabilities that was extremely complementary to what 1E was really doing, especially in the application experience management space. Super excited around that. And to talk more around Exoprise, what that means for customers and what the product actually looks like, Simon, I'm going to pass it over to you to go through a demonstration and really tell us what Exoprise and the capabilities are all about.
Awesome. Thanks, Kat. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. So first, we'll start off in the default dashboards here, which I have presented. And these are fully customizable, so you can rearrange the tiles however you want. You can add widgets, make the information visible, share these out with teams. But really, without understanding the synthetics and everything, this doesn't really make too much sense. So let's get into it here. So I'll go ahead and pull up the Teams AV synthetic. And the important thing with these synthetics is you run these from the offices where you have user presences, right? And these are going to continuously test the application. So this does end-to-end testing. It's not just a simple ping or trace. For the Teams synthetic here as an example, it starts a meeting, it'll invite a user to that meeting, it then plays an audio and video file, and it's going to look at the performance metrics for each of those while the synthetic is running. If it detects any issues, any anomalies, anything that's out of what should be acceptable, it'll then raise an alarm. So you get a proactive notification letting you know that something's impacted. And with that, you can typically get those prior to Microsoft acknowledging that there's an issue and sending out their notifications. And it's not just for the Microsoft side, right? We have synthetics for network monitoring, we have synthetics for the Microsoft 365 suite, and a bunch of different ones that you can use for other purposes. Now, each one of the metrics we crowdsourced for the synthetics. So I can toggle this on or off. You'll notice that there's two bars here. One is the crowd, one is my synthetic that's running. The nice thing about this is the crowd analytics are an aggregation of all of our customers utilizing the synthetic. And by going in here, you can compare yourself to the crowd to see if you're performing worse or better. And if you're performing worse, you know you need to make improvements so that you get your performance to improve. And at the same time, if there are issues happening with teams in this example, and you go in here and you see the crowd is spiking and yourself are also spiking, you know that the issue is more likely to be on the Microsoft side than it is to be with just yourself, because everyone is being impacted at that time. Now, the different tabs at the top are going to provide you different metrics for that synthetic, right? So for teams, you have meeting connection, media quality, the login times, the page times for teams, the layout time, and then the connectivity times. So these are really beneficial. If ever you think that you have some kind of proxy causing issues, you can go in here and see how it's affecting you. And then with the SSL negotiation, if you're seeing spikes with these, it's typically related to network congestion. So these metrics are really beneficial. These synthetics run every 5 minutes too. So every 5 minutes, it will collect all of this. And on top of that, it's also going to do a super advanced trace to the destination servers for teams. So here we have our network segmentation. These are segmented based off of the different networks that are interacted with by the synthetic when it runs. You can see it here, leaving from the LAN, making its way to the ISP. From the ISP, you'll see it making its way into the backbone networks, which are going to interconnect everything, and then into the Microsoft infrastructure. You'll notice you have the red 132 milliseconds here. That's the highest latency in this meeting. And if you scroll down, you can get more granular visibility, hop by hop details into how that trace was done, and find the highest round trip times. So that helps you figure out exactly where the issue is stemming from. And then you know who to get involved, whether it be the network team, whether it be the vendor. And depending on the synthetic, right, you're going to have different options. It could be a Microsoft, it could be something with Zoom. So you'll get that visibility that you need. Now, moving on from the synthetics, we also have our real user monitoring. And with the real user monitoring, again, you're able to customize these dashboards how you want. We're collecting with the real user monitoring. This is active when the user is active on the device. So if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, the screensaver is running on there, we're not looking at that. There's no reason for us to collect that information. It's not beneficial to anyone. But when the user is active on the device, we start collecting the performance metrics. And we are looking at the what we call core applications. Core applications are business critical applications. So your Teams, your Zoom, your WebEx, VPN clients, VDI clients, all that, we're looking at the performance metrics for, and not just like the resource usage, like CPU, disk, and memory, but we're also looking at the network telemetry for those applications. So if I pull my machine up here, we can start drilling through the data that's being collected. In the top right, you can change the time frame that you're looking at. And then below that, you'll have your event types and crashes. So this is Windows updates, driver updates, that kind of stuff. And then application crashes, application hangs. Those are all going to be visible in here. On the middle screen, you'll get device information. We have what's called active test, which are lightweight network synthetics that you can deploy to these devices. And you can test like VoIP performance with that, or make sure a URL is accessible, that kind of thing. We have our browser extension here. We'll drill down into this here shortly. Network latency is the network latency of that device based off the application and how they're performing on there. And then network utilization is going to be Wi-Fi or Ethernet performance, depending on how the device is connected. We're also scoring the machine, right? This is an average of how the machine is performing for that period that we're looking at, so the last 3 hours. And that's an aggregation of the different resources on there and how it all combines together. Scrolling down, I did mention we pull all the typical resources. One of the ones that a lot of our customers like is the Wi-Fi signal, Wi-Fi utilization, and Ethernet utilization here. These are really beneficial because if someone's having issues, they call in saying, hey, Teams isn't performing or something like that. You can go in here and see if maybe the Wi-Fi signal isn't as high as it should be. And in that case, it could be that they're too far away from the wireless access point, or something's going on with it that's preventing it from connecting properly. The reliability down at the bottom is going to be those events, those application updates, crashes, and all that. And you can see them in a timeline here. And then in the core apps, these are the applications I mentioned, your business critical applications. And if we drill down into here, we can get the resource usage. You'll notice there's a top app here. The difference between this is just the top apps we don't collect the network performance for. It's just the top 10 applications using the most resources on the machine. So that's where the differentiation is. For these, though, you're able to look through the different metrics, and you'll see at the top it's lining up. So if you're seeing like issues with the CPU, you can compare the overall CPU of the device at that time to what that application is using. You'll see the two lines at the top kind of are connected and moving along at the same time. And then where we really shine is going to be in the connected and stream networking. So connected networking is going to be the TCP traffic of applications on the device. And then stream networking is going to be the UDP traffic of those applications. And you'll see here, this is Teams, and this is actually the meeting that we're in right now. And with this information, you're able to figure out where slowdowns are happening for Teams. Again, we're aggregating all the networks that are interacted with in the network segmentation here. You can click into these as well if you need to know like ASN, ASO, any of that information. And then we notice here that we have a 62%, and it's got the little green arrow going down. So that means it's trending 62% better than it was the previous time that checked this information. Now, we're collecting this data every 30 seconds, and then it gets sent up every 5 minutes. So you'll see typically every 30 seconds for up to 24 hours, 12 hours-ish, and then it starts aggregating the data together. But when you're getting in there and it's the most recent data, you're going to have a lot more data points. From here, if you click into the trace details, you can actually see the hop-by-hop information. And this is actually my machine. So this is it leaving my internal network, making its way into Miami, all the way into the Microsoft infrastructure over here. And using the different buttons on the far right here, you can find the highest packet loss, highest jitter, and highest round trip times for that part of the call. So again, this is really beneficial to send to the team that's involved with this, right? Whether it be, DNS changes that need to be made, quality of service that needs to be implemented, any of those things, and you're able to get that visibility, and then you know who to get involved when these things happen. Now, next up, we have our browser analytics. And with the real user monitoring, you have the option of deploying with up to 8 different URLs or domains. You can have multiple configurations, though. So right now, you'll see I have 14. I have 2 configurations, one with 8, one with 6. That's why they're showing 14 in here. With the extension deployed, which can be deployed to Chrome and Edge, as users interact with those web pages, with those domains, we're going to start collecting the performance metrics for those. And we're going to give you visibility into the navigation times, how long the connections are taking. The request segments here, this is client percent, server percent, and network percent. This is the amount of time it's taking on the device, the web server, and then the network in between to reach the page that it's trying to load and get everything input. Below that, we have the page metrics. So input delay, page jump, and page faint. If assets are jumping around all over the place when a user is interacting with the page and it's loading, that's what's going to be reported here. Round trip times, how long it's taking for the connections to be made. And then down here at the bottom under the errors, we'll list any JavaScript errors, CSS errors, whatever gets detected by the browser for those pages that are being monitored. Then the data point details also has the timings waterfall. So if you want a clearer look into how everything loaded, you can get to that there. And then the transactions, users, and domains tabs at the top are just different ways of filtering the information for what you're trying to look for. Now, with all the information that's being collected here, we make that visible through the dashboards. And I showed you the default ones earlier, but if we switch over to, let's look at this app network first real quick. The app network here is going to provide you with the ISP performance for the devices, both TCP and UDP performance. So the right side is going to be UDP metrics. On the left is going to be the TCP IP metrics. And then down below that, per device performance, groups. We have device groups in the product, and that allows you to group devices based off of different criteria. And then you can group them by office or something like that. And then you can compare one office to the other, how they're performing. Then if we keep scrolling, we have by application latency. And this is where you can see all of the teams, everyone using them, how it's performing across the board, and then the different network segments that are interacted with and how they're performing. This allows you to see how well everything is going. You can also stack them side by side just to see which ones take the most amount of time. With the dashboard information here, now that you've seen just kind of like the default stuff, let's move into custom dashboards. So this right here is a Teams AV dashboard that we built. This will give you an idea of how everything's performing for the different synthetics that we have deployed. So down here, I can also scroll down, and using device groups, I can look at the performance by office. And this is based on the real user performance, not the synthetic performance. The synthetics are over here on the left. So by separating everything, you get a general idea of how everything is performing across the board for a specific application. And it's not limited to specific applications, right? Like we're looking at Teams AV Health right here, but if I wanted to look at like network performance, I can use a combination of VoIP sensors, DNS sensors, synthetics, and populate the information that we need for visibility across the board in a single pane of glass for everything that you need. Now, that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over. I'll go ahead and pass it back over to you, Kat. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you, Simon, for that. I appreciate it. And as I mentioned before, Exoprise is a big highlight of the year. So glad we were able to show you that demonstration and go through that. And there's just one more item that I will bring up as we wrap up. And that is looking forward to 2025 now as a part of TeamViewer. So I know we covered 2024, all the highlights there. Did want to close this out just with TeamViewer has acquired 1E as of last Tuesday, and the closing is happening early next year. But did want to mention that it's public and there has been news and press release, and I believe I saw it on TV. So it's out there. But do want to mention that 1E will now be a part of TeamViewer. Still figuring out what that means, but TeamViewer headquartered out of Germany. Large company now, especially with 1E involved, about 1,500 employees. And so we're now going to be a part of this larger company per the acquisition, and more information to come on that. What I did want to mention about TeamViewer is we're excited to be part of their team. We're excited to be now part of this larger organization, but most importantly, the purposes align. So TeamViewer's purpose and 1E's purpose, they align. We really both care about creating a world that works better, improving digital employee experience, really care about how technology serves people and creates new ways for IT to help with people working every single day. So definitely common themes in our missions and our purposes, and really excited to be part of the TeamViewer team moving forward. And again, more to come on that, more details and what that means will be coming in the new year, but did want to close that out. Big things happening in 2025 and the end of 2024, I suppose. But wanted to mention that there as well. And again, there'll be a lot more communication information around what's going on with TeamViewer. So with that being said, I will wrap it up. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Doug, for being a part of this webinar. Thank you for your demonstrations. And thanks to everyone for joining. If there's any questions, definitely feel free to put them to this email address. We can answer those for you. And thank you very much.